Intruder entered through kitchen sliding door.
Nationwide victims.
Yeah, this is Will Graham of the FBI.
One killer.
This is what the subject's teeth look like.
Have you ever seen blood on the moonlight well?
William, you're gonna make yourself sick or get yourself killed.
Multiple trails.
Just you and me now, sport.
One hunter.
I'm gonna find you. Damn it.
FBI agent Will Graham. Manhunter.
Hey everyone, this is Mario again, coming at you with another movie review. Today I'm reviewing a film that I just recently saw thanks to Netflix, and it's right here. I already put it back in the case, as you can tell. It's going to be going back in the mail tomorrow. Had it sitting on right there for a while. Decided, oh, what the heck, I decided to watch it today. Especially considering that I read the book not that long ago. And I also, earlier this year, reviewed the other adaptation of that very same novel. I guess the title and what I just said alone should tell you what it is. It is the 1986 thriller directed by Michael Mann and produced by Dino De Laurentiis, Manhunter. It is based off the novel Red Dragon by Thomas Harris, which I have to say was a very interesting novel, and the movie is faithful to that novel all the way up until the ending of the movie, which I will get into that to an extent later on. Now, the film stars William Petersen, that's Sen with S-E-N, who plays Will Graham, and nowadays he's more known for playing Dr. Gilbert Grissom on CSI, which I mostly watch CSI Miami. I haven't watched it in a while, but probably will give it start rewatching it soon. And I watched the original on occasion, and I remember him on there, because when I was watching the movie, I knew he looked familiar, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's the guy from CSI. I'm like, oh yeah. Hannibal Lecktor in this film, it's spelled with a K, and an additional K, is played by Brian Cox, and I'd say Cox does a pretty good job here. I've liked Brian as an actor ever since I saw him in, in X-Men 2. I really wish he had been in X-Men Origins Wolverine. And he's one of the things I really do like about Rise of the Planet of the Apes, cause even though he's not really given much to do there, he does do good with the time he's given. As Hannibal Lecktor, he really nails the role to it too. My favorite performance is still Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs, but Brian Cox is a close second. And it really does make me wonder how Cox would have handled Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal, because adult Hannibal is not in, fully adult Hannibal is not in Hannibal Rising, which I'm probably not going to read anytime soon, but we already know how Anthony Hopkins ended up handling Red Dragon. It was, just some of the same finesse he has in Silence of the Lambs, just not as much screen time. Here, Brian, he brings some of the same characteristics that Anthony brought to the role, but they just act them out in a different way. Like the way they speak, the way they speak is different. Obviously, the way they move is different. It's a different take on Hannibal Lecktor. You get the same vibe that you get from Anthony in Silence of the Lambs, but in a different approach. And I just like Brian's approach to it, especially since the novel is still very fresh in my mind. Out of all the characters in the movie, he is the closest to their novel counterpart. And the way that they show the things that he does in the novel and the movie is very creative. I mean, the only thing that's not in the movie is his letter, and that's for very good reason, because like I said, the ending was changed. Dennis Farina as Jack Crawford I thought was pretty good casting, and I've liked Dennis as an actor ever since I saw him on Law and Order, and of course the host of the revamped Unsolved Mysteries. Yeah, I like him as Jack. He's probably my favorite Jack because he's the one I see more being an FBI agent for some reason. Now, comparing William's Will Graham, I guess, to the second adaptation's Will Graham, because I consider Red Dragon to be a readaptation of the novel, not a remake of this film, because they're different animals, even though they're based on the same material. Comparing him to, damn it, I'm forgetting the actor's name, or that's bad to forget the other actor. Edward Norton. I knew it was in. Comparing Edward and William as their performance as Will Graham. Edward's is closer to the novel's version, but Will, he has that same vibe, and you actually see him like whispering the stuff as he's going through deducing what the killer's doing. But he also has some badassity to him, I guess, especially near the end. He's not going to take no shit. And then, of course, Tom Noonan as the killer, which I have to say is perfect casting. In the way that it's set up in the film, I thought was brilliant. Because I already knew about that scene where he takes Lowndes and puts him in the chair, because I've already seen that scene, it was on 100 Scariest Movie Moments, and that's a great way to introduce a character, because up until that point in the film, we never have seen him. We've basically know what he's done. We've basically seen him do stuff without him being in the camera, and that being his introduction, that's a good thing. And one thing I will say, when you compare his Francis Dollarhyde to the one played in the second adaptation by, if you guess you get it, I forgot the name, by Ralph Fiennes. If I'm pronouncing, I can't. This name always troubles me. Fiennes, I believe. Fiennes, or by Ralph Fiennes. Okay, when you compare it to that one, while Ralph's is sympathetic to the same extent that he is in the novel, Francis here is not really that sympathetic. I mean, when they do talk a little bit about what created him a little bit, you feel sympathy for what he went through as a child, but as an adult, he's basically a psychopath, I guess you can say. And you don't feel any sympathy. You're like, oh, that's a little sad, but then the moment he says Francis is no longer here, or something like that, it's something like that, or Francis is gone forever, then that's when you really see that he is just a crazy sob. What's a sob? I don't know, but and in that extent, having Tom Noonan play the role was very great, and it just shows that I love him as an actor who plays villains even more. Because remember, he played Kane in RoboCop 2. That's the only other villain role I can think of him. Because the only other role that I can think that he did off the top of my head is the Frankenstein monster in the Monster Squad, which there he did a pretty good one. There you see he was sympathetic. So I would say if they had based it a little bit more on the novel, I could see Noonan pulling off the sympathetic part of Francis's character, where he's like begging the painting, no, not her. I could see him doing that, but I don't really have a problem that they didn't put that aspect of the character in there. I guess it makes Francis a little bit scarier, especially considering what he did. Now, overall, I would say this is probably my second favorite of the Lecktor films, and I'm about to tell you what order I put the films in. And granted, this is actually kind of easy after I saw the film to put this in this order. Note that even though the films are put in this order, I'm not saying that any of the films to me are bad. This is just the order I enjoy them in. 1, Silence of the Lambs. 2, this film Manhunter. 3, Hannibal. 4, Red Dragon. And the part of the reason that this one wins out over Hannibal on the other film adaptation of Red Dragon is that while it is faithful to the novel up until the ending, it has the style of the film is very artistic. I mean, the lighting is great. Like in the romantic scenes, it's blue. One scene with Noonan, it's like a green, symbolizing his submissiveness in that scene. And also the camera angles and the use of music, they really heighten the scene. Like a scene near the end, Francis puts on music and it's Inagata de Vita. By that point in the film, I'm not going to spoil anything, but by that point in the film, him playing that song fits, because not only does it make his movements a little bit hard to follow for the blind character, but also the words of the song are "Inagata de vida, honey, don't you know that I love you? Inagata de vida, baby, don't you know that I'll always be true?" Now the reason, I'm not going to spoil while that fits, but if you've seen the movie or the other movie or read the novel, you already know what has happened by that point, so you understand what I'm about to say. That song basically symbolizes some of the emotion going through Francis at that moment. Maybe more so in the novel and in the other adaptation, but a little bit here as well, because from just the looks on his face, you could tell he was hurt. I know that might be a minor spoiler, but I didn't say anything specific. But you could tell he was hurt, and this is basically his way of expressing himself. Not only does that the lyrics fit, but just the way, because they use basically the whole song in this movie. You don't hear it all, but as it goes through, each part of the song that's used at different parts fits what's happening on screen, like jumping through the window and some of the fight scenes. And let's not forget, another positive thing is we get to see Tom Noonan with a shotgun. How badass is that? And then of course we also see William Petersen with a Magnum. Now of course I know I haven't talked about the plot 10 minutes in. I'm just going to give a brief plot synopsis. The plot is that Will Graham is a former FBI criminal profiler who retired after catching Hannibal Lecktor because of a mental breakdown. He's approached by his former superior, Jack Crawford, who's seeking help in this case of what they called the Tooth Fairy because of his bite. Basically, he's on a lunar cycle, so they bring in Will to help. He agrees after a little soul searching, and after a while, he decides to go ask Hannibal Lecktor for help. And then, of course, Hannibal gets corresponding with the with the Tooth Fairy, Francis, and as it goes, Will now slowly begins to unravel Francis, who at the same time is dealing with a romantic relationship. That's basically all I'm going to talk about of the plot. Now, like I mentioned earlier, it's faithful to the end, up until the end. The ending in the original, in the book and in the second adaptation, if you remember, involves Francis doing a whole thing where he fakes his death but doesn't look like he's faking his death, setting his house on fire to, I guess, get rid of the memories and stuff, as well as, eating the painting of the red dragon to try to conquer it, because by that point in the novel, the red dragon basically is an alternate personality. At first, when he was being the becoming, they were basically one and the same, but when he started the relationship, he basically didn't want to turn her into a victim of the red dragon, so it became like an alternate personality, like telling him, "You got to kill her, you got to kill her, she'll help your becoming," which we don't see that at all in here, which is probably not really a big thing. It's not something I'm going to hold against the film. It would have been nice, but with how you portray Francis in the film as, being totally psychotic, or at least more psychotic than Francis is in the book and in the other movie. And it kind of does hint like he might have multiple personalities. I mean, he does say Francis is gone, so that's a little hint that he might have alternate personalities, but he doesn't, I guess, fight him. I guess he either succumbs to in this film, or he basically just lets him take over. Never explains that. I guess it's up to the viewer. I don't know which one I'd lean more towards. I probably have to watch the movie again to decide. But back to how the ending is different, and of course the movie, the story ends with Francis going to William's house and basically trying to kill him and his family. Although, in that respect, the ending of Red Dragon is closer. They actually stretch out the ending in that movie a little bit more, adding, the whole taunting thing, which I thought was interesting. I bet Thomas wishes he had thought of that. But I like this. The ending in here in this movie is not that bad. It shows that Will is badass. I mean, granted, probably not a good idea to jump through a window while running at Tom Noonan. I know I would not do that. But it's still a very good ending. Like I mentioned, the music is great, and it's not really that much of a musical score, what you think of musical. It's usually a lot of uses of songs, which is okay. I'm looking at the soundtrack here. Most of these look like they are songs, like I said, Inagata de Vida by Iron Butterfly, Strong as I Am, which is the ending song, which is a very good ending song by the Prime Movers, and Heartbeat by Red 7. There's a lot of good songs. I probably want to get this soundtrack. And, another thing with Will, where in the novel, his family is basically his wife, and then the son is his stepson. And in the second adaptation, it's obvious that it's his son. This one, it's a little bit more oblivious. Would oblivious be the right word? It's hard to. I guess you could say it's harder to tell whether the son is his or not. I mean, the son talks to him like he doesn't know something happened when obviously he's old enough to have been there, and yet he calls him daddy, which is something that his counterpart character, does not do in the novel. So I'm guessing that they hint that it might not be his son or something, but they never fully state it. I guess they leave it up to the viewer, which I thought was nice. The relationship with his wife, other than that one love scene, we don't really see much interaction between them until the end, which... Oh, except for a love scene where they have a move, which I thought was nice. And how they do the toilet paper thing, I thought was nice. Oh yeah, Chilton. I forgot to talk about Chilton. Chilton, he's only in one scene, and he's basically wasted. He's not really used as much as he is in the novel and the other film, and you never get the vibe that he is a pretentious ass like he is in the novels and like how he is in Silence of the Lambs. Because in Silence of the Lambs, the moment you see Chilton, from how he talks and how he words his sentences, you could tell he's a pretentious ass. Here, I didn't get that vibe. I'm like, it just seems normal. It's just like in Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining. Ullman, I think it is, the guy who's the manager of the hotel. In the novel, he's a pretentious ass. In the movie, you don't get that vibe. You don't get that vibe at all, which, like I said, it's not something that drags me down or anything when I watch that movie, but it's just character difference, and same thing here. Of course, Ullman has more to do in The Shining than Chilton does here. Chilton only is there to serve as a plot provider, I guess you could say, because how else are they going to find out about that toilet paper thing? Now, my final score for Manhunter would be a 4.5 out of 5. I do plan on getting the DVD. Whether I'll get the theatrical version or the uncut version, I don't know. I have to hear how the uncut version is, but I'll probably get that one. I want to know if there's special features, though, because obviously this is a rental copy. But if there's special features, definitely I would want to get the DVD, because this film, it is one of those films that gets its audience through video releases, because it flopped at the box office, making $8 million on a budget of $15 million, which is sad. And then, of course, Silence of the Lambs comes out from an adaptation of the sequel novel to Red Dragon. And people probably went back and watched this out of curiosity, and it found its audience, which I'm glad it did. And I really wish it had gotten nominations. It should have got. I feel it should have gotten an Oscar nomination for Best Director, Best Supporting Actor for Tom Noonan, and maybe Best Actor for Will Petersen. Definitely Noonan should have gotten an Oscar nomination. That's how good he was. Like I said, 4.5 out of 5 stars. If you haven't seen this movie and you're a fan of the other Lecktor films, or you just want to see a good horror thriller, this is your movie.